What's that? Sam suddenly said, lifting pages weathered by time and neglect. Looks like a field guide on local ghost stories. He smirked, flipping open a yellowed page. Perfect bedtime reading, right? Haunted Happenings of Briarwood, a treatise on terror. Yeah, real comforting, Marina quipped dryly, rolling her eyes while stealing a glance at Quinlan. You really think we can fight a ghost with some historical trivia? Why not? Quinlan replied, trying to dismiss their growing tension. Might be more effective than your sage advice. Just ignore it, he mocked in a playful tone. Fiora chuckled lightly before her smile faltered. Well, ignoring it didn't work last time. She shivered, wrapped her arms around herself, and gazed into the woods that breathed unease. I just want to face it together, she whispered, her vulnerability weaving through the group. Sam shrugged, his glimmering ambition overshadowed by a serious thought. Maybe we should dig deeper into those stories. There's a reason we're drawn here, right? History repeating itself, Quinlan murmured. I brought us here to reclaim what was lost. Suddenly, Marina's eyes narrowed. But at what cost, Quinn? You want to lose someone else? She took a step closer, her voice lowering. You're not the only one carrying baggage from that night. A flicker of guilt dashed across Quinlan's features, and he opened his mouth to respond, but Fiora interjected. This isn't about the past anymore. It's about survival. We all want to leave this place intact. Intact? You think we can talk our way out of this like it's a broken heart? Marina shot back. You don't know what it's like to face it, Quinn. Maybe I didn't know before, Quinlan replied, a hint of anger slipping through. But I'll be damned if I'll lose another person I care about. Tension thickened, palpable like the scent of damp earth. Fiora sensed the rift and stepped forward, reaching for Quinlan's arm. We can't let ourselves be consumed by this. We have to confront it, together. And just like that, the clang of emotions smoothed over. In that moment, he looked into Fiora's eyes and felt an electric spark. I need you by my side, Quinlan confessed, voice low and steady, the bravado momentarily stripped away. I've always needed you. Fiora blushed, stepping away with a nervous energy. And here I thought you just needed my jokes to lighten the mood. Your laugh is a lifesaver, he teased, attempting to lighten the moment as he leaned in closer. From behind them, Sam interrupted, waving the journal. Hey, save the mushy stuff for when we're not surrounded by restless spirits, all right? You two are worse than a bad horror flick. Laughter erupted, lightening the taut atmosphere, even as shadows loomed nearby, foreshadowing the horrors yet to come. Let's stick to the task, Marina insisted, her resolve returning. If we focus, we can figure this out. Let's solve the mystery of the hollow before it solves us. They encircled the journal, pooling their thoughts and fears. Words emerged, punctuating the weight of their ongoing anxieties and unresolved emotions. Each paragraph conjured old specters, hinting at stories hidden in the woods, stories that didn't want to remain buried. As they focused on the pages, the tension shifted again, simmering just beneath the surface. The laughter faded, leaving a stark reminder of the peril waiting in the dark shadows of Briarwood Hollow. Fiora took a deep breath, scanning the moonlit woods. Together, we can break free of the past. Quinlan nodded, a flame of determination sparking amidst the growing dread. Together. But even as new resolve took root, an unsettling shadow darted through the trees, banishing laughter and igniting fear, leaving only the whispers of the haunted echoing in the hollow night. Scene 95, Healing Rituals. The flickering candles cast trembling shadows against the decaying walls of the old cabin, their wax pooling like memories forgotten. Quinlan stood at the center of a worn-out rug, his hands trembling slightly as he pulled the fabric tighter around him. Do we really think this will work? I mean, what if? He paused, the words unspooling like threads from a fraying sweater. What if it doesn't? Fiora, perched beside the hearth, let out a breath that seemed to echo through the silence, heavy with fear and unresolved tension. We have to try, Quinlan. It's the only way to honor them. Honor us, she replied, her voice calm but her eyes darting around, capturing every face in the room. Around them, their friends, each embroiled in their own memories, sat in a loose circle, grappling with a blend of skepticism and desperation. Amelia, a fiercely loyal friend of Quinlan since childhood, interjected, her tone laced with urgency. Fiora's right. If we don't confront this, we'll never find closure. It won't just erase our scars, it'll let us transform them into something stronger. She squeezed her hands together, the weight of loss hanging in the air like a dense fog. As Quinlan glanced at her, he could see the flicker of resolve in her dark eyes, but beneath that strength lay a hint of vulnerability he recognized all too well. What if confronting it only brings more pain? He countered, while deep down he feared the answer, fearing that he might lose them all again. Jake, always the comic relief, piped up, lightening the dark cloud. Come on, we aren't candle making in a grandma's basement. We're channeling our inner witch, right? His playful smirk mixed with the glare of the candlelight, and the tension in the cabin eased momentarily with hesitant laughter. Fiora shot a look, merging concern and affection. Do you hear yourself, Jake? This is serious. Serious? Sure. But a little humor goes a long way, he shrugged. Moments later, his face turned somber, his eyes flashing with ghostly remembrance. We've lost too much to not at least crack a smile at the absurdity of it all. With a subtle nod of appreciation toward Jake, Fiora let her gaze wander. It fell on Zephyr, her half-brother, who sat cross-legged, his brow deep in thought. You look like you're planning a heist or something, Zephyr. You in or out? He looked up slowly, breaking through the fog of contemplation. Just thinking we should really keep a lookout. It could also be a distraction. His tone suggested he harbored doubts about whether their rituals were the best way to deal with the unseen menace. The room grew quiet as Fiora shifted, sensing the need for action. What about the herbs? The sage? It's supposed to protect against negative energies. She jumped to her feet, her enthusiasm sparking like wildfire, but her heart pounded with a mixture of apprehension and excitement. Quinlan watched her, admiration clear in his gaze. She opened the worn satchel containing an assortment of dried herbs, their scents sweet and intoxicating as they wafted into the air, rosemary, lavender, and a sharp thread of sage. We'll create a protective circle, she declared, the exuberance momentarily eclipsing the gravity of the moment. As they arranged themselves, placing the herbs in a circle, a thoughtful silence enveloped them, punctuated only by Quinlan's whispered voice. I still feel her here, my friend, like she's guiding us. But what if we aren't ready? A glance around the circle revealed a mix of resolute stares, each sharing their own stories, their own ghosts. Then we face it, Fiora said, her tone softening as she met Quinlan's gaze. There was a flicker of something deeper, unspoken and filled with promise, a connection forged through fear and resilience. All right, then, Quinlan smiled, leaning just enough to brush shoulders with her. If we're doing this together, let's do it right. Amelia clapped her hands, a soft echo against the hushed cabin. Let's light the candles, shall we? Wherever they are, they deserve this moment. The air shifted as darkness laced with their laughter filled the room, yet a palpable dread hung nearby, a lingering reminder that the comforts of humor would soon be tested. Each friend soloed in their thoughts, but united in their intent, collectively drawing on their shared pain for strength, breathing life into rituals that felt deeply threaded like a tapestry. In those flickering shadows, the line between fear and hope blurred, each heartbeat, each breath an echo of memories that refused to fade, yet could never be tucked away. Scene 96, a shared purpose. The sun hung low in the sky, casting an amber glow over the dilapidated cabin where Quinlan and Fiora gathered their friends for a seemingly mundane task, setting up camp. Laughter intertwined with nervous energy as they strung lights from the warped wood beams, the flickering bulbs dancing in the evening breeze. Fiora secured the last strand with a smile, though the nervous tension in her shoulders lingered. She glanced sideways at Quinlan, whose playful banter, mostly directed at Mason's ongoing struggles with the outdoor gear, brought a brief smile to her face. Mason grunted, wrestling with a stubborn tent pole. It's just a stick. How can it be so uncooperative? He grimaced, grappling with the pole, drawing a round of laughter from the group. Maybe it's possessed? Joked Ellen, her tone light, but her eyes darting nervously around the clearing, heavy memories clinging to the air like tendrils of mist. As laughter rang out, Quinlan took a moment to watch Fiora, a mixture of resolve and uncertainty etched into her features. She caught him watching, her breath catching as their eyes locked. A tension simmered just beneath their playful exchange, an unspoken connection that thrummed like a taut string waiting to snap. Fiora, Clara exclaimed, breaking the moment. You've got to help Mason before he turns our tent into a pretzel. She waved her hands dramatically, prompting more laughter, though Fiora's gaze lingered on Quinlan. Right! On it! Fiora answered a tad too eagerly, brushing aside the emotions that flickered in her chest. As she turned, Quinlan allowed a small smile to break through his guarded demeanor. If only he could tell her. If only there weren't the ever-present shadows weighing down their hearts. Nearby, Jake perched on a weather-beaten stump, sketching the towering pines. You should all see how this place looks from my perspective, he started, casting a fleeting glance at Ellen before returning to his drawing. The thick trees against the fading light create an ethereal look, ghostly, even. His voice lightened the air, not realizing the truth in his joke. Maybe it is haunted, Ellen murmured, half joking, but her tone slipped into a more somber note, recalling the stories that had threaded their past interactions. A shiver traced its way down her spine as she remembered the old folklore that inspired their journey stories, tinged with warning. Quinlan shook off the chill and stepped closer to Fiora, who was now adjusting the angle of the lights with a focused determination. You know, he said, partly to distract her, partly for his own comfort, they say ghosts are just people with unfinished business. He paused, studying her carefully, hoping she could see the meaning behind his words. Fiora's brow furrowed slightly. What do you think their unfinished business could be? She tilted her head, curious and unguarded for a moment. The intensity in her gaze pierced through the playful banter, eliciting a sincerity from Quinlan that was both refreshing and frightening. Maybe they're waiting for someone to understand them, he replied softly, a weight in his voice. It felt like a small invitation, a door cracked open to reveal the complexities they both knew too well. Suddenly, Clara's voice broke in, almost too loudly. Or they just want a good laugh, right? She grinned, attempting to lighten the growing intensity, but inadvertently letting a hint of tension linger. Ellen rolled her eyes, brushing back a strand of hair. You say that now, but friendlier ghosts might not be the only kind lurking around. Meanwhile, Mason finally wrestled the tent pole into submission, standing tall with mock pride. Victory, he exclaimed, knocking his knuckles together like a seasoned warrior. The group erupted in playful shouts, requiring a new distraction from their bubbling fears. Fiora cleared her throat, shyly pulling attention back to her. In all seriousness, though, I think whatever happens tonight, we can handle it together. Her voice carried a genuine warmth as she looked around, searching for affirmation from each face. Yeah, Jake chimed in, sketchbook now forgotten. As long as we stick together, ghosts and all. Quinlan looked at Fiora, caught in a moment wrapped in the weight of unspoken truths. Together, he echoed, the word hanging in the air, a promise that teetered on the edge of something deeper. And for an instant, as laughter faded to soft murmurs of understanding, it felt as if they had woven a fragile net of connection, binding them against whatever shadows awaited. Scene 97, Past Meets Present. Quinlan leaned against the weathered oak tree at the edge of the clearing, its bark rough beneath his fingers. A rustle in the undergrowth nearby startled him, snapping him from thoughts tangled in shadows. The air was thick with the musk of damp earth and decaying leaves, yet the chill in his lungs felt sharper, almost electric. Quinn? Fiora's voice broke through the tension, her tone tinged with concern. She stepped closer, the sunlight filtering through the branches and dancing across her features. What's wrong? With a cautious glance around, he forced a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Just remembering, you know. Fiora tilted her head, her bright hair catching the light like spun gold. We all have our ghosts. There was a vulnerability in her gaze, a silent understanding that made Quinlan's heart race. But sometimes the past can wreck you, he interrupted, his voice sharper than intended. He ran a hand through his tousled hair, frustration bubbling. I didn't pull her back, Fiora. I didn't save her. His memories wrestled with him, a dark storm that took hold at the edges of his mind. Silence fell, heavy and palpable. Fiora stepped into his space, the warmth of her presence mingling with the chill around them. You can't hold on to that forever. What happened wasn't your fault. You know it wasn't. Yet her words hung there like a soft tether. pulling at his consciousness, forcing him to revisit the past and confront it all over again. The wind rustled through the trees, whispering secrets long buried. Between them, the air began to shimmer with an intimate tension. Quinlan's gaze dropped, lingering over the subtle curve of Fiora's lips. Fighting the urge to draw closer, he clenched his fists. This isn't the place. Fiora pressed her finger gently on his lips, quieting him. No, Quinn, don't push me away. The intensity in her eyes held him frozen, entangled in a moment shared only by them. You've sheltered everyone else for so long. Let me in. He could feel the beat of his heart, thundering in response to her quiet plea. The boundaries separating them began to fade as memories of laughter around a campfire entwined with the present, a time when stories flowed as freely as the moonlight above. Across the clearing, the others had settled down, sharing stories, their voices rising in playful banter, laughter rolling like waves. But Quinlan and Fiora were cocooned in a silence that spoke volumes, every unsaid word curling around the tension. A sudden shout from Nate nearby jolted them, pulling them back into their reality. I swear it was right there, an apparition! You all missed it! Sure, Nate, and I'm the Queen of England, chimed in Emily, her voice light and teasing, brushing aside the tension like dust. The group's laughter rang out, momentarily dispelling the undercurrents swirling around Quinlan and Fiora. Quinlan chuckled, though it felt strained. He glanced at Fiora. See, we should get back to them. No, she breathed, stepping closer, her presence enveloping him. Not yet. The heat radiating between them was palpable, a current begging to be acknowledged. Quinlan felt that yearning echoing in his chest, a call to abandon fear and embrace whatever tether bound them. Leaning forward slightly, he let his forehead rest gently against hers, grounded in the sea of her emerald eyes. Fiora, I can't. Her breath caught, fragile in the charged atmosphere, brimming with uncertainties and unspoken truths. You can't keep denying this. Can't you see we're all connected now? Everything we've been through has stitched us tighter together. No, he whispered, the air buzzing with reluctance. It's like a thread waiting to snap. Another shout erupted nearby, drawing their focus momentarily, but the moment hung around them like a lingering melody. They stood so close now, he could sense her heartbeat matching the rhythm of his own. What are we doing, Quinn? Fiora's voice trembled slightly, allowing a flicker of hope to shine through the tension. A battle, he murmured, pulling back just enough to meet her gaze, understanding blooming between them. And if we're going to fight, we need to remember what we're fighting for. Together, she said, that spark of her unwavering spirit igniting a flicker of warmth within him. And the ghost stories, he added, a smile breaking through the weight of their shared burdens. Right, we'll scare it away with laughter, Fiora teased playfully, the sun finally breaking through the branches, illuminating their entwined hands, a flicker of hope in the dim. Yet, unseen, shadows loomed. Somewhere in the thickets, the ancient entities stirred, waiting, hungry for their fears to materialize. Scene 98, Voices from the Shadows. The flickering candlelight cast wavering shadows against the crumbling stone walls, illuminating the edges of Quinlan Vex's weary face. Outside, the wind howled like a lost soul, a ghost of its own echoing through the barren trees surrounding the old cabin, where the group had sought refuge. The air felt dense with anticipation, weighed down by unsaid fears and unvoiced hopes. The scent of damp earth mingled with the musky aroma of old wood, creating a nostalgic atmosphere that reminded Quinlan of his childhood adventures, where shadows danced like fleeting memories. Do you remember that ghost story about the girl who never returned? Fiora Les whispered, her voice soft yet laced with an edge of nervous energy. She sat cross-legged in front of the dying fire, her sun-kissed hair framing her face like a halo, a stark contrast to the shadows creeping in from the corners. Quinlan nodded, the memories circling back to their first campfire night, where laughter had filled the air and the boundaries of reality felt safe and far away. I thought it was just a tale, but... He hesitated, his voice trailing off like smoke. But it feels real now, doesn't it? She continued, tilting her head slightly, her brown eyes searching his. The fire crackled, the shifting orange light dancing in her irises, revealing flickers of vulnerability. Fiora, he said, a warmth rising within him despite the chills of the cold night. It was just a story. We're here together, safe, We have to trust that. Silence fell between them, thick and suffocating. The weight of their collective experience pressed against them, and the laughter from their earlier discussions faded like echoes in the night. Quinlan reached out, gently brushing his fingers against Fiora's. The contact sparked like electricity, and for a moment, the terrifying reality melted into a shared tranquility, the outside world dimming in significance. "Do you ever think about what comes after?" Fiora asked, her voice barely a whisper as she drew closer. "Like, if something were to happen to us?" A shadow flickered at the edge of the room, and Quinlan's protective instincts kicked in, dispelling the softness of the moment for a heartbeat. "I don't want to think about what happens after, but if we make it through," he hesitated again, his pulse quickening. "Things could change between us." Just then, the door creaked, drawing their focus. A nervous giggle erupted from the back of the room, where Marcus, fortifying himself with yet another tale, clutched an old flashlight as if it were a sword. "I once knew a guy who swore he went to a haunted place and fought a ghost with a flashlight," he declared, his bravado mixed with an undertone of fear. "Yeah, and I bet he won, right?" Eleanor teased, rolling her eyes. Newsflash, ghost fighting isn't exactly on the list of careers to pursue. The group erupted in laughter, and Quinlan felt the momentary distance between himself and Fiora shatter, laughter bringing a warmth that momentarily eclipsed the dread gathering around them. Fiora's smile brightened the room. It had that rare, contagious quality, and his heart felt lighter. "See? Stories bond us," Marcus said, puffing out his chest. "Except, in this case, our bonding experiences might get us all killed." Laughter echoed again, easing the knots in everyone's chests, if only for a moment. But as the small mirth faded, the weight of their shared predicament loomed back into focus, and Fiora leaned closer. "I want to take that risk with you, Quinn," she confessed, her breath a soft mist in the cool air. "If we can conquer ghosts, maybe we can conquer everything." For a heartbeat, Quinlan felt the gravity of her words pulse between them. He swallowed hard, the distance of their realities ever present, and closed his eyes for a moment, steeling himself against the encroaching fear. "Fiora," he said at last, gently tilting her chin to meet his gaze more directly. "Whatever happens, I—" A sudden shudder rippled through the cabin, cutting him off. The lights flickered violently, shadows elongated on the walls like reaching fingers. Silence fell, heavy, pregnant with the unspeakable. And then, as if the very air turned to ice, Fiora's expression shifted. Fear carved lines into her features, and in that instant, the warmth of their earlier conversation vanished, leaving only the chilling reality of their situation. "Look out!" Quinlan yelled, just as the shadow coalesced. The last flicker of light extinguished, plunging them into darkness, but not before Quinlan reached out, craving that warmth once more. It was a moment gone too soon, frayed threads of connection overshadowed by impending terror. "What are we going to do?" Fiora breathed, urgency punctuating her voice. "We'll find a way," he promised, though doubts twisted in his stomach. As his fingers wrapped around her wrist, the frigid air swirled around them like a vengeful spirit rising to claim its due, and the silence that followed was even louder than before. Scene 99. Embracing change. As dusk settled over the dilapidated cabin, a heavy silence blanketed the air, interrupted only by the crackle of the dying fire. Quinlan leaned against the rough-hewn wall, arms crossed and brow furrowed, contemplating the uncertainty of their future. "I can't help but wonder," Fiora said, her tone light yet edged with seriousness. "What happens next? Once we get out of here, are we really going to go back to our old lives?" She tossed a throw pillow lightly so it landed near him, a gentle attempt to draw him out. Quinlan's jaw tightened, the muscles clenching in response. "What if we can't go back? What if everything we thought we knew is gone?" His gaze wandered to the flickering shadows dancing across the ceiling, uncertainty etching deeper lines into his face. Fiora's fingers tugged at the fringes of her sweater, the gray wool rubbing against her skin. "I think that's the point. We're not the same people we were. Don't you feel it too?" She shifted closer, her warmth enveloping him. "I do, but change is terrifying," he replied softly, a vulnerability breaking through his usual bravado. The weight of his past haunted him, but he needed her to understand that. "Sometimes I feel like I'm still trying to escape what I lost." Across the room, Rena and Matt shared a divided couch, their mismatched desires weaving into a comic thread amidst the heavy atmosphere. Rena poked Matt in the side, her bright smile piercing through the gloom. "Hey, Matt, when this is all over, we should start a ghost tour company. Tell everyone about what we've seen." Matt chuckled, shaking his head. "You really think anyone would pay to hear our stories after living them? It's like asking someone to pay for a roller coaster ride only to vomit afterwards." "Exactly," she said, her laughter ringing out, momentarily breaking the somber mood. "How about Vomit and Vortex, Haunted Adventures?" Matt snorted. "Not a bad title. It has credibility." As the two erupted into soft laughter, Quinlan felt a flicker of warmth in the bleakness. Fiora's eyes sparkled in the low light, her humor contagious. "We could all use a little more laughter, right?" she urged, glancing at Rena and Matt before turning back to Quinlan. "Right," Quinlan echoed, but a shadow haunted the corners of his mind. "They'll be writing novels about us," Fiora teased lightly, nudging Quinlan's shoulder with her own. "You know, how a group of dummies went ghost hunting and learned how to live." "I'd read that," Quinlan murmured, allowing a smile to creep onto his lips. But doubt lingered like the echoes of their terrifying encounters. A stillness enveloped the room, and the tension shifted palpable. A shared glance ignited something unspoken between Quinlan and Fiora, something that crackled with potential. Fiora's gaze lingered on him, soft and yearning. "Quinlan," she whispered, a sliver of hope threading through her voice, "do you believe we'll really find our way back?" He stepped closer, inching into her space, feeling the warmth radiate from her. "I want to believe we can forge our own path, together." Quinlan's chest tightened as the space between them shrank, air thick with anticipation. He brushed a stray hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering against her cheek, electricity bursting at the touch. "Together," she breathed, lifting her head slightly, emboldened by his proximity. The world around them faded, and in that moment, the chaos outside their bond felt distant. Their eyes locked in a profound understanding, the darkness and uncertainty eclipsed by a growing light, the potential of new beginnings. And then, without a word, they moved closer. The kiss started softly, a gentle meeting of lips, but soon deepened, fueled by shared fears and desires, the promise of connection amidst the haunting shadows of doubt. Time slipped away as they fell into each other, leaving behind the ruins of their past. As the fire flickered and sighed in the background, Fiora felt the warmth enveloping not just her body, but her spirit. The kiss held a notion of what could be, shimmering like their future. The echo of a distant howl pulled them back to reality, the shadows returning to their corners, ready for another confrontation. Quinlan pulled back, breathless yet expectant, speaking as the candlelight wavered around them. "Whatever comes next, I know one thing." "What's that?" Fiora murmured, her heart pounding. "We will face it together." Scene 100, Renewed Adventures. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the abandoned forest where Quinlan Vex and his friends often gathered. The air felt electric, rich with the scent of pine and earth, while attended by the distant murmur of a river. Quinlan leaned back against the gnarled trunk of a weathered oak, his mind wandering through a maze of the past, lingering on memories interwoven with laughter and stories told under the stars. Each moment was a mantra, a reminder of their shared history. But today, as Quinlan surveyed the circle of friends sprawling on the forest floor, their lively banter felt charged with ambition. Fiora Lyce, her hair glinting like a gold coin in the afternoon sun, leaned forward, excitement contagious in her voice. "What if we planned a real adventure? Something to stretch our legs and our courage." Her eyes sparkled with the thrill of possibility. "Maybe a road trip?" Ethan, an easygoing jokester, interjected, leaning back on his hands. "Hit every haunted location we can find. I'm down for a ghost tour until we're chased by some crazed specter at least." Laughter rippled through the group. The weight of their previous encounters with the supernatural felt lighter today, almost like an inside joke beginning to unfold. Quinlan chuckled along, but a thread of worry pulled tight within him. Could they really dance with danger again? And what about away from this frenzy? Vita, the cheerfully unpredictable artist, piped in, tossing a pebble into the air, catching it deftly. "We can't just keep doing the same thing. Maybe something less spooky?" She shot a glance at Krista, who had a soft spot for romantic getaways, her dreamy sigh punctuating the air. "Oh, please," Krista grinned, her voice airy. "No road trip is complete without a little ghostly fun. Plus, I suspect have a supernatural cliffhanger may entice the crowds." She nudged Zeke, who was sketching figures on the walls of a weathered cabin nearby. Quinlan's chest tightened. Did they truly want to provoke the unknown again? Shaking it off with a grin, he turned his attention back to Fiora, whose enthusiasm sparked a warm feeling in him that he delicately craved. Their eyes met, a quiet understanding passing between them. She often brought light where shadows clung too tightly to him. But moments like this were fleeting, and they both knew it. As Quinlan began to contemplate an impending kiss with her, he was pulled back into the laughter erupting from Jack and Imogen, who were attempting to one-up each other with tales of accidental hauntings. "Okay, so this one time," Jack started, mimicking a haunted voice, "I was just chilling in my room when I swear I heard my mother talking to me from the kitchen. I come down only to see—" He paused for dramatic effect. "The toaster malfunctioning! It's a ghost! It just wanted to burn my toast!" Imogen nearly fell over in laughter, and a ripple of giggles followed. Quinlan chuckled, but remained aware of Fiora's gaze lingering on him. It was bittersweet, a longing mingling with fear, the push and pull of wanting to embrace, yet being terrified of what it might bring. Fiora suddenly stood, brushing her hands on her jeans. "Let's make it real." She spun dramatically, arms wide open, relishing the moment as if inviting the world to conspire with her. "A journey to places that might just steal our breath." "And our sanity," Jack added, an eyebrow raised. Fiora, undeterred, continued, "We'll discover tales that aren't just words, but adrenaline-pumping experiences." Quinlan, caught in the revelry, felt something shift in the air. He approached Fiora, the laughter fading into the background as the forest seemed to hush, waiting. "You really want to do this?" His voice was soft, tinged with a sincerity that echoed deep inside him. Her smile softened, eyes sparkling even brighter now. "I do. I really do." Time stood still, and in that enchanted moment, the world receded as they leaned into one another, breath mingling, electric thoughts suspended in the pulsing quiet. Just as their lips were about to meet, the sound of cracking twigs echoed ominously in the distance, a subtle reminder of how quickly joy could twist into fear. Quinlan's heart raced at the intrusion, but could not keep his focus from the warmth of Fiora. "Sometimes I think our adventures may lead us to places we aren't prepared for." "And that's what makes it thrilling," Fiora replied with a coy smile before he closed the distance, the tension of hesitation dissolving as their lips brushed, the forest alive with possibility. In the deep stillness around them, the embrace felt timeless, yet the shadows loomed, hinting at the adventure and the danger that awaited them just out of view. Scene 101. Planning for tomorrow. The flickering glow of the campfire danced upon the faces of Quinlan Vex and his friends, illuminating joyful, expectant eyes that flickered like the flames. The night was suffused with the aroma of burnt marshmallows and smoky pine, a serene respite that cradled them against the vastness of the star-drenched sky. Quinlan's laughter erupted, cutting through the murmur of the forest, grounding everyone in the moment. "Okay, who's setting the bar higher for next year?" he asked, grinning. Fiora Lise leaned forward, the light catching her wispy curls. "I want to start my own community art project, something that brings people together. Maybe murals that tell their stories." Her voice bubbled with enthusiasm, each word infused with her trademark warmth. "I can see it now," chimed in Max, a tall, lanky guy with an infectious smile. "Fiora's mural project, the global art sensation we never knew we needed. But let's face it, you'll probably spend half the budget on paint colors." He mimicked her hand gestures, evoking laughter among the group. Fiora rolled her eyes, a playful smirk lighting her lips. "Oh, please, Max, like you wouldn't blow your funding on canvases that no one's ever going to look at." "Not true," Max protested. "My artistic vision." "Artistic vision, or toilet humor with splashes of color," laughed Mia, a sharp-edged friend with a penchant for beautiful chaos. From his seated position, Quinlan looked around, laughter dissipating within the comforting satisfaction of camaraderie. He wanted to keep all of them safe this year. But as thoughts of past failures shadowed him momentarily, he waved them away and turned to Emma, leaning against a tree near the firelight. "What about you, Emma?" he asked. "What dreams are you chasing?" With a delicate sigh, Emma brushed a lock of hair behind her ear. "I'm going to work on publishing a collection of those short stories I've been tinkering with. I think I can explore the darker sides of human emotion." Her brown eyes twinkled with both excitement and apprehension. Quinlan couldn't help but admire the way she leaned so respectfully into her art. However, among the laughter and the plans unfolding before him, he felt a vice tightening around his resolve. He cleared his throat and looked back at Fiora, resting on her knees, excitement palpable in the air between them. "What about you, Quinlan?" she asked, her face aglow in anticipation. "What's your plan?" His heart drummed harder, memories of a friend's lost laughter echoing in his ears. I want to protect this circle." He meant more than the physical bond they had, but the words danced precariously upon his lips. "I want to find ways to weave our stories into something grand. Keep the spirits, alive through our voices." Suddenly, a pregnant silence enveloped the group, shadows creeping in. Quinlan felt vulnerability creeping in, yet a smile broke through. "And if you're lucky, I'll still make you all laugh." The lightness returned, laughter bubbling back up, but Fiora's gaze remained fixed on him, her expression unreadable. As the night wore on, they began to share personal tales of resilience and dreams, unveiling pieces of themselves felt only by the select few. Quinlan found himself locked in Fiora's gaze, and an unexpected heat surged between them. "What if I said," her voice dropped, thick with what lay beneath the surface, "that maybe some of us should chase our dreams together?" His breath caught, and Quinlan leaned closer. Together, then. The sincerity of that moment burgeoned with unspoken possibilities. There, under the veil of the stars, Quinlan leaned in, catching her delicate, fragrance-crisp notes of pine intertwined with something floral. Their lips hovered, each heartbeat racing against the other's anticipation, until the world faded away. The warmth of the fire wrapped around them, and just as their lips met, the fire flickered, casting elongated shadows, a suffocating whisper muttering through the trees. Then, as quickly as it started, it ended in a breath. Quinlan's mind flooded with thoughts of their whimsical dreams, veiled anxieties, and all the vibrant stories still untold. He stepped back, their eyes locking in shared realization. Tomorrow is never guaranteed. Quinlan's voice trembled with sincerity. The woods around them breathed a heavy, ominous silence. They all sensed it, that something beyond their plans lay in wait, lurking within the flickering shadows. Scene 102, shared light. The evening settled in like a heavy blanket over the old cabin, draping its pale moonlight across the creaky wooden floorboards. Quinlan Vex stood by the window, squinting into the creeping shadows of the surrounding woods. His thoughts spiraled beyond the horizon, haunted by whispers of teasing laughter and spectral tales, but the weight of his friends' faces lingered heavily in his chest. He could almost hear the distant echo of their ghost stories, tinged with fear and exhilaration, each word laced with a shared thrill of adventure. "Quinlan?" Fiora Lysa's voice broke through the stillness, bright and warm like the sun breaking dawn. She stepped into his line of sight, her hair tousled from the evening breeze, a flush of unease painting her cheeks. "Why are you staring out there like you expect the woods to speak back?" Quinlan turned, attempting to mask his thoughts with a smile, but the concern in Fiora's eyes drew an unexpected pang of vulnerability from him. "I'm just thinking about what might be out there. That's the problem." Fiora crossed her arms, the action both defensive and defiant. "You keep thinking, and it leads to spirals. That doesn't help anyone, especially not us." The tension between them twisted tight, snapping like a rubber band. "I'm supposed to protect you all," he said, tossing his hands up, frustration creeping into his voice. "I can't do that if I'm not aware. I won't let what happened." "Stop!" Fiora cut in, her voice rising. "You can't keep carrying that weight forever. You can't save everyone, Quinlan." She stepped closer, glaring at him with fierce intensity. "Doesn't it ever tire you out, holding on to guilt like it's a shield?" Their eyes locked, and for a moment the world outside fell silent, as if it too were engrossed in the tempest of their conflict. Quinlan's facade began to crumble. The laughter he perpetually offered faded beneath the weight of lost hope. "Maybe it does," he finally admitted, each word carefully chosen. Maybe I'm scared of letting go because it feels like I'd be dishonoring her memory. Fiora's expression softened. You're not dishonoring anyone by living. You don't need to fight this alone. She reached out, her fingers brushing against his arm, a gentle yet electrifying connection that ignited something deep between them. We can face whatever is out there together. Just then, laughter erupted from the adjoining room, pulling them both out of the intensity cocoon they'd woven. Dax, their friend with an affinity for the absurd, was recounting a particularly hilarious ghost story involving a bumbling apparition and an ill-placed picnic basket. The laughter echoed, cutting through the tension like a resounding bell. Quinlan turned toward the sound, chuckling despite himself. I hate that guy, he mumbled, though a reluctant grin crept upon his face. Fiora laughed, her earlier frustration dissipating in the warmth of camaraderie that filled the cabin. Our paranormal comedian, right? It's absurd, but it works. Suddenly, a shadow flickered past the windows, a swift, dark silhouette that sent a jolt through Quinlan's spine. His laughter evaporated like mist under the sun, and alarm coursed through him. Do you see that? He gasped, heart racing. Fiora's eyes widened, and they shared a frantic glance, unspoken fears threading between them. In an instant, the cabin was alive with shouting. What was that? Amelia cried, her wide eyes darting around as her voice quivered with every syllable. I think it was. Quinlan started, but was cut off by Emil, whose bravado fell short to sheer terror. Guys! We need to check it out, Emil insisted, clutching the old camping lantern like a lifeline. Fiora's hand slipped into Quinlan's, a fierce grip that spoke volumes. We face this together, she said, her tone steadying him even amid the chaos. As they moved toward the door, confidence ignited a flicker of hope within Quinlan. In this moment of shared fear and courageous company, perhaps an even deeper bond was forming between him and Fiora, one that could withstand any battle they had yet to face. Together, Quinlan whispered, catching her gaze, illuminating a spark of trust beneath the surface. In the ever-deepening shadows of the night, their journey had scarcely begun. Scene 103, Facing New Fears. In the dim glow of the setting sun filtering through the trees, a gentle wind danced through the air, rustling the leaves with whispers only they could understand. Quinlan stood before an old fire pit, the remnants of last night's gathering still smeared onto the stone edges, charcoal marks against a backdrop of growing twilight. He picked up a ragged piece of cardboard and began to shovel loose ash away, inhaling the bittersweet scent of wood smoke mixed with the distant echo of laughter that lingered in his memory. Cleaning up for the next campout, are we? Fiora approached, her voice breaking the stillness like glass shattering underfoot. She flexed her fingers, stretching away the tension as a nervous laugh escaped her. What if they find another ghost next time? Or worse, a bear? Quinlan offered a half-hearted smile. Don't worry, I'll just tell it a ghost story. Bears have terrible taste in entertainment. The corners of his mouth twitched, but his eyes betrayed him, clouded by thoughts of what they had awakened during their last adventure. Fiora stepped closer, her brown hair shimmering like sunlight on water. Quinlan, she said, her tone shifting, growing heavier. You've been different since. The silence that followed hung thick, laden with unsaid words, as both drifted back to that fateful day that had marked their summer, a day of secrets, shadows, and the burgeoning darkness that had risen from their past. Let's just focus on today, Quinlan interjected, the tightness in his chest palpable. Change the subject? I suppose I should thank you for keeping things light, Fiora replied, though the hint of disappointment laced through her words. But it doesn't change the fact that I can sense something's troubling you. Before he could respond, the group began to emerge from the shadows, Tobin, Polly, and Grayson laughing together, their energy a fresh contrast to the somber whispers that had curled around Quinlan and Fiora. So, Tobin boomed, slinging an arm around Grayson's shoulders. Who's joining me for horror movie night? I've got popcorn and bad jokes on standby. Polly chimed in, but the kind of bad that also involves world-ending gloom, right? Because we need some emotional balance here, folks. As laughter bounced among them, Fiora lurched into the moment with her customary enthusiasm, doing her best to dispel the shadows. Count me in. As long as I'm not watching it alone, I'm good. She winked, elbowing Quinlan playfully. Right, partner? Quinlan, still lost in thought, replied absently. Sure, but I'll also need to prep my ghost taming strategy if anything goes wrong. Desk chairs squeaked as the group settled down in the clearing for the improvised movie night. The crackling fire brought together warmth, pulling grim shadows away from their faces and tightening their bond. Polly raised an eyebrow, seeing the way Fiora stole glances at Quinlan, and couldn't resist. Lovebirds, she teased, feigning sweetness that could curdle milk. If you two need time alone to plan your next ghost hunt, I hear the woods are very romantic this time of year. Fiora turned crimson. Shut it, Polly. The laughter erupted again, tinged with the unspoken tension shifting beneath their camaraderie. Quinlan caught Fiora's eye, and for a moment, the entire world felt like it hung suspended, a tightrope walk of both fear and longing. Quinlan leaned in closer, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret amidst their friends. You know what scares me? He murmured rather playfully. That the ghosts have seen our show and are taking notes. Fiora burst into laughter as his jest, the lightness prickling her skin in a way that felt swift and refreshing. Maybe they are just waiting for us to get our act together. As the movie began, the flickering screen illuminated, casting shadows across their faces, while each appeared transfixed by the story unfolding, not only on the screen, but within each other's hearts. Tension knit through the group as deeper fears brewed, hiding beneath the surface, but still, they smiled. Yet, in that flickering light, as joy tangled with fear, Quinlan's voice rose above the murmur surrounding them. Whatever battles we face inside and out, remember, we're in this together. In that moment, their laughter wasn't just an echo of happiness, but a pact forged through memories that tethered them to each other like chains of light. Yet, as the night deepened and the wind howled through the trees, the lingering weight of the shadows grew heavier, whispering promises of fate that no one could foresee. Scene 104. Capturing memories. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the old oak table, where the scattered remnants of laughter and whispered secrets lay, a kaleidoscope of photographs, ticket stubs, and crumbled love notes. The air carried a crispness that hinted at the approaching fall, a chill that snaked down the spine and settled heavy with unspoken words. Quinlan Vex sat with Fiora Lise, the light pooling around them like the glow of their memories. Quinlan adjusted a frayed scarf around his neck, glancing at Fiora as she held up an old photo from their summer road trip, their faces sun-kissed and carefree. Remember when we got lost and ended up at that tiny diner? Best milkshakes ever, he chuckled, pulling a crooked grin. Fiora's laughter danced in the air, bright, infectious. I still say you got us lost on purpose just to keep me from hogging the front seat. She flicked his arm playfully, eyes sparkling, yet there was a tension between them, an undercurrent swirling beneath their camaraderie. As she rifled through the pile of mementos, her fingers brushed against the edges of memories, lingering just too long, as though she sought something yet unformed. This is perfectly sentimental, she declared, but I think we need some excitement too. How about we title this page, The Ghost Stories of Summer 2023? Only if we add the part where you almost convinced me to jump into that lake at dusk, he replied, a teasing lilt in his voice, though his heart thumped with the memory of watching her, drenched with moonlight. Fine, let's see. How about the accidental adventures of Quinlan and Fiora? She suggested, a mischievous smile teasing at her lips. As they compiled the scrapbook, the atmosphere vibrated with memories, each laugh tugging them a little closer, while anchoring them in a world that felt increasingly tempestuous. The distant rumble of thunder echoed through the room, prompting Quinlan to glance out the window. Dark clouds rolled across the sky like an ominous risotto bubbling on high heat, stirring both foreboding and exhilaration deep within him. Is that thunder? Fiora asked, casting an expectant glance toward the window, holding the scrap of a ticket halfway to the page. I thought we were done with the stormy stuff after last week. They always seem to hang around, Quinlan said, his voice layered with reminiscence. Just like old friends who don't know when to leave. Fiora chuckled softly, her eyes narrowing as she gently placed the ticket down. You mean family, don't you? The kind you can't shake off but always find a reason to love. Something like that, he said, a touch of gravity settling in the humor as he turned to focus on her. This is more than just a scrapbook. It's a binder of who we are. Speak for yourself, Fiora resumed, rifling through the photos, the playful glint in her eyes returning. We all know you try to bury your deepest secrets under layers of witty charm. Quinlan's fingers brushed against one of the pictures, hesitating. Maybe I thought if I buried them deep enough, they wouldn't haunt me, like ghosts. The laughter fell to a hush. Fiora's eyes reflected both mischief and understanding. You won't banish them simply by ignoring them. Trust me, I know all too well. Before Quinlan could respond, the wind howled outside, rattling the windows. They exchanged a worried glance. The solidity of their laughter faded into reverent stillness, swallowed by the growing storm. As the first drops of rain splattered against the glass, Quinlan straightened, resolutely breaking the tension. Okay, scrap the ghost stories for now. Let's add a new rule. For every scary story we tell tonight, we have to include a funny one. Fiora burst into laughter again, the tension lifting. Deal, but I get to pick. Fine, just no more ghost stories, right? Quinlan said, a spark of mischief returning as they fell into an easy rhythm, the sounds of the rain becoming a backdrop to their playful banter. As they organized the photographs into their makeshift archive of adventures, an unvoiced promise lingered between them, heavy with tension, the knowledge that they were not just capturing memories, but perhaps codifying the very essence of their relationship before the future spiraled unpredictably. Let's make this last forever, shall we? Fiora said softly, her face lit with an earnest glow. Always, Quinlan replied, the sincerity in his voice shifting into something deeper, something unspoken that hung just beneath the surface. And when the storm truly broke, the air taut with danger, they wouldn't realize that their fight for survival was only beginning. Scene 105, a night of celebration. The warm glow of fairy lights strung across the backyard danced with the soft rustle of leaves from an overhanging oak. A fitful breeze carried with it the scent of grilled burgers and the sweet tang of soda.